2 murders, 2 weapons, 75 witnesses, 1 murderer. Alex Murdaugh found guilty of killing his wife, Maggie, and his son, Paul Murdaugh. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. We do lawyer reaction to different trending topics. This week has been, or the last month, has been the trial of Alex Murdaugh, former attorney in South Carolina. Yesterday, March 2nd, he was found guilty of murdering his wife and his son. Today, March 4th, he was sentenced to 2 life sentences with no possibility of parole. Welcome to the channel. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button so that it pushes out to the YouTube world. You can share with other viewers just like you who are interested in the topic. If you're new here, I'm Larita. I'm an attorney, and I'm here to do a reaction video on this trial. A lot of people have been following the Alex Murdaugh trial, so I kind of wanted to go. Oh, I'm freezing a little bit. I kind of wanted to go over some of the legalities of it all and to see from my lens when I was viewing the trial. I know everybody has their own opinion about it and why did they introduce this evidence and why did they not introduce this evidence. If you've checked out, I've been posting little shorts throughout the week. I think it started off with Murdaugh testifying in his own defense, which I think was part of the nail in the coffin for him. The second thing was he had quite a few expert witnesses who somebody paid a pretty penny for them to testify. Big name expert witnesses to say that there's no way that he was the possible murderer. Obviously, that didn't work out for him. The jury actually had a chance to go to the actual crime scene and view it to see in real life if they could believe what he was saying and what the prosecution was saying about the crime scene and how it was possible for Murdaugh to be at the crime scene. And then 3 hours after deliberating, they said guilty. Both counts. He was found guilty of murder and guilty of possession of a crime with a firearm. And I didn't think it was surprising. What do you guys think about it? Do you think that the jury got it right? Comment in the comment section. If you're hopping on the live, say hi to me in the chat box. I like to interact with our viewers and see what you guys think about it. But I'm going to kind of run through what I thought about it and why I kind of knew based on the evidence that they were going to find him guilty. One thing that stood out to me, somebody who was actually in the courtroom, was reviewing the courtroom, said that the trial has been going on for 28 days. Might have been longer than that. And they said that none of the jury were taking any notes. They were listening, but it was a lot of evidence. Like I said, it was 75 witnesses that were introduced in the trial. Even the person with the best of memory would have a hard time remembering what they found this witness to say, whether they found this witness to be credible, and them not taking notes when they went to deliberate. 3 hours, they were home in time for dinner. So I'm gonna share a little bit what's going on because it was a backstory to it. So Alex Murdaugh, if you're not familiar with him, he was an attorney in South Carolina. He's been since disbarred as of last year. The alleged crimes happened in 2021, the murder of his wife and his son. But it's a backstory to why it happened, which is what goes to the motive of it, right? Because his defense was like, well, why would I want to kill my wife and my son? Prosecution said, oh, thank you. We'll tell you why. This is the motive, right? Seemingly is a father and a great husband, right? But not when you start peeling back the layers, maybe not so much. So it goes back to when his son Paul in 2019 was in a boating accident. And right, you have a boat. These are privileged people. They were driving around boats. He ended up killing a young lady. And Murdaugh, the father, was being sued because it was his boat for the untimely death of this young lady. That was pending in the background for him. He was dealing with that multi-million-dollar lawsuit, wrongful death lawsuit. He also had a $50,000 a year opiate addiction that he was somehow fueling through also stealing from the law firm for which he was a partner in. Millions of dollars he was stealing from his clients, stealing from his law partners. All this going on, right? And supposedly this was the motivation to kill his son and his wife to distract from all the other things that were going on. He was going down for something. He wanted to bring some sympathy to himself by saying, well, I just lost my son. I just lost my wife. Feel sorry for me. And, I could never do something like this. And the jury obviously didn't believe it. But that is what the prosecution said was the motive for the murder. Even the judge at the end, Judge Newman, who I think was an excellent judge, and if you follow this case, he actually was a judge in another case where a young lady was mistook a car for an Uber driver. The guy ended up kidnapping and killing her. He was the presiding judge over that. Another situation where somebody shot somebody as they were running away. He was the presiding judge in that. And I admire he definitely had the judicial demeanor, right? He was very even killed, operating, keeping up what was going on, introducing or not introducing evidence, allowing the prosecution to introduce or not introduce evidence. I think he's a very well-respected judge. And he even said that he knew Murdaugh in the legal community because Murdaugh, like I said, was a lawyer as well. And he felt sorry when he thought, he found out that his wife and his son were killed. But then when he realized, wait, he's a possible suspect, then it had to, okay, what are the facts here? So I'm going to share my screen with you because I'm going to introduce one of the reasons, like I said, was they said that the motive for killing him is because he had these other crimes going on. And usually when you introduce evidence in the trial, there are rules of evidence. And I usually share that with you guys to tell you, you guys say everything is not admissible in court and there are rules of evidence. And in this situation, there were rules of evidence, and they allowed the prosecution to introduce the evidence of other financial crimes. Hopefully you can see the screen as I'm introducing it. Other financial crimes. And Rule 404, rules of evidence, says character evidence, other crimes, wrongs, or acts. And in the normal course of a trial, you cannot introduce evidence to prove, to basically sour the person's character to the jury or to the fact finder. But there are always exceptions to the rules. And then you'll find out, as in the legal field, there's a lot more exceptions to the actual rule. You realize why there's a rule. But in this particular case, they were introducing the fact that he had all these other crimes, basically fraud, stealing from his clients, stealing from his law partners. And they introduced it for the permissible reason of proving motive. So that is other crimes, wrongs, or acts. Permitted uses. This evidence may be admissible for another purpose, such as proving motive, opportunity, intent, preparation, plan, knowledge, identity, absence of mistake, or lack of accident. And so they introduced that to show not that he's a bad person because he did all these things. They introduced to show that this is the motive for him actually killing his wife. Now, whether the jury took that and believed it, I can't say, right? I can't say what the jurors were thinking, but I like to think that they probably thought him was a liar, a thief, not necessarily a murderer right away, but they didn't think very highly of his character. What was also, there were several things that I think were a nail in the coffin for Murdaugh, and one of them was testifying in his own defense. If you're not familiar with how the legal system works, the prosecution has the burden of proof. They are charged with the duty of proving beyond a reasonable doubt that this person committed this crime, right? In reality, the defense does not have to present any defense. They can just point to the fact that the prosecution has not met its burden. In this case, though, because the prosecution introduced these other crimes evidence, other financial crimes evidence, and also the fact that there was a Snapchat video of that seems to show Paul Murdaugh's Snapchat showing Alex Murdaugh in the background, whereas he said he wasn't actually near the victim before the incident. These things, supposedly Alex wanted to explain himself, right? You got some explaining to do. I think between the jury not liking him going on the stand and putting on what I thought was quite a show of fake emotion, The jury just was like, we don't believe you. You need more people. And he said that he loved his wife, he loved his son, but the jury is like, yeah, you love them and you still murder them. That's what they believe. And I think that the Snapchat video, him testifying in his own defense, kind of undid it for him. That's what I think. Comment in the comment section or the chat box. Let me know what you think, because like I said, I'm doing it from my perspective, and there was a lot of things that I didn't watch the whole trial from the start to finish. I watched as it got later into like the last week of the trial. But what I saw, I was just like, he guilty. And it was funny. I was sitting in the barbershop while my son was getting his haircut, and I was talking to other people about it. They was like, well, doesn't he get in trouble for lying? And I was like, well, that's called perjury. He lies on the stand. But in reality, right now, the major charge against him is murder. Yes, they perhaps can go after him for perjury, but it's less likely they'll do that. Right now, he has 99 other counts. 99 other counts of financial fraud against him. I don't think the prosecution is going to be bothered with a perjury charge. That carries the least amount of penalty. They're going for the big fish, right? But in reality, he admitted that he lied to police about his whereabouts. He admitted that he stole from his clients and his law partners, some of who he's friends with for a long time. His father, his grandfather, his great-grandfather were all prosecutors in this South Carolina small town. I believe he thought he was above the law. And guess what? He messed around and found out he wasn't. And I don't think he thought he was going to walk out of that courtroom because he has all these other pending charges against him. But I think he thought that him crying on the stand and trying to make himself a sympathetic person, I could never do this. He thought the jury would believe it. Of course, he's a lawyer. And even if he wasn't a lawyer, when you are convicted of a murder charge and you get sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, meaning you're never getting out, you're going to file an appeal. That's almost like as a matter of course. It will almost be ineffective assistance of counsel to not file an appeal. But when you file an appeal, the appellate court looks at the record, and what they do is decide whether evidence should have not been introduced, and you have to prove that certain things should have not been introduced. Let me share my screen with you. What's next for him? So this is an article from what is this from? Independent News. This is Alex Murdaugh and his son Buster, the surviving son Buster, and he's kind of like, he lost his mom, his brother, and now he's losing his dad to prison sentences. I don't know. There was a lot going on. Oh, and I forgot that there was an investigation into, they had a housekeeper who had a mysterious trip and fall death on the Moselle estate. They were looking into all these things. So it was kind of like, you're not going to get him for something. For one thing, you might get him for another thing. And right after the murders happened, there were, in September, so the murders happened in July of 2021. In September 2021, supposedly Murdaugh was shot in an attempted robbery. Found out he set this up. He set it up to be ambushed, and supposedly he did it so that his surviving son Buster can take on life insurance, right? And so he has that charges over the botched hitman plot going on as well. And he said basically all these things are stem to his drug addiction, right? And he wasn't in his right mind, and that's why he was doing all these things. And Judge Newman even said at the sentencing, he said, "I believe that you loved your wife and you loved your son. I also believe that the person that killed them is not the person that is standing in front of me today." Drug is a lot. It can cause you to do a lot of things, and if he was popping opiates left and right, causing him to be paranoid, causing him to be out of his mind, perhaps they may have influenced like why he would kill his own wife and son. I don't know, but the judge said there's no doubt in my mind that you killed them. It's sad that you did that. And he even called his son when he was testifying, "Oh, Pawpaw, I love Pawpaw," by his nickname, to try to garner sympathy. And I was like, I hope the jury sees through that, right? Yes, you can call him by his nickname, but it definitely came out like, oh, I don't know what's going on. All right, I've been ignoring the comments. I'm sorry, I didn't see these comments. Sorry, guys. All right. So Lee Marshall, hi Lee Marshall, very guilty. Who we got? Sharon Lee, I thought guilty. Hey Judy, hey Legal Focus, hi, tuning in from North Carolina. The addiction information did him in with the jury. Okay, you might have. What else you got? Rajan Robinson, hi Rajan. Hi Judy, you like my baby piano? He sounded ridiculous, should not have testified. That's what I thought. I'm like, when I did the little short video, it was like, this is one of the reasons why people should not testify in certain instances. Because not that you should convict somebody over how they look or how they presented themselves on the stand, but I'm sure the jury cannot ignore it. They're like, oh, you're a horrible actor. We don't believe you. And if we had any sympathy for you, it dissipated once you started opening your mouth and seemingly telling us how much of a liar and a bad person you are. So I think that kind of probably did it in. Sharon Lee says, I admire the judge. He is strong. His son died suddenly. Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. Yes, I admire Judge Newsom. I mean, it's good to see that. 2 consecutive life sentences. He got a lot to think about. And he still has this 99 counts of the financial crimes. He ain't getting out. Even if he beat this trial, he was still on bond from the other financial crimes that he was doing. He was not going home. You do not, like I said another day, you do not pass go. You do not collect $200. You are in jail for somewhere or another. Judge Newman, Buster is slimy too. Oh, so I don't know about Buster. I know some people were talking about Buster, and I guess the whole family, people was like, well, they didn't think that Maggie or Paul or Buster or Alex or any of them in that family were good people. So this is kind of like karma coming back to them. Granted, I don't know the backstory about all of them, but it was definitely seeming like this was an entitled family. Even actually in the courtroom, the Alex Murdaugh's great grandfather's picture used to be in there. Because like I said, he was former prosecutor in South Carolina. They basically were prosecutors in South Carolina from 1920 to 2006 consecutively. His great grandfather, his grandfather, his father. Murdaugh was actually a personal injury attorney. So they've been there while to the extent that his great grandfather's picture was actually in the courtroom, Judge Newsom had it taken down so that there would be no impropriety of like bias or anything to say that, you know, his great grandfather would get him off. So they took the photo down, but they have a long history. And when you think that you're above the law, you operate in certain situations. And even as an attorney, even though he was not a criminal defense attorney, it seems like it kind of shows as far as the evidence they were bringing out, because there was no direct evidence. Nobody actually witnessed him doing the killing. He was convicted on circumstantial evidence. And if you watch my other videos before, circumstantial evidence is just as good as direct evidence if it can prove that, you know, certain things happen and this is why this person is guilty. So he was proven on circumstantial evidence based off of a few things, but some of it was like he didn't know about technology, how iPhone tracks movement, whether somebody is walking or running, whether they are in a car or not. He didn't know about Paul Murdaugh's Snapchat capturing him. And that evidence actually wasn't brought out for months until I guess they went through Paul Murdaugh's phone and found this. Like, he said he wasn't there, and he clearly was there about 4 minutes before the alleged murders happened. But you claim you weren't even anywhere near, you had visited your mom or something like that. Technology is a blessing and a curse. And in this situation, I guess it was a blessing that justice was served and help was helped to be served through technology. But I think he's 54 years old, so he may not be as well versed about how much technology is and what it can be used, because like I said, he wasn't a criminal defense lawyer, but he found out all these things. And so we'll see what ends up happening here. Buster is suspected of beating a gay young man, Stephen Smith, to the, oh Lord, whole family about to be either in jail or dead. He got kicked out of USC Law School for plagiarism. Oh, so I didn't even know this backstory. So Lord Jesus. So we'll see what ends up happening to Buster. It's unfortunate. I think Alex Murdaugh, his demeanor when he was receiving the sentence, he was still till the final moments declaring that he was innocent. I think that the prospect of life in prison with no possibility of parole, he might be on suicide watch. Like I said, he already had been in this situation where he was trying to get somebody to kill him so that Buster can get his life insurance policy. I would put it above him that he might actually be in danger of killing himself because he doesn't want to spend the rest of his natural life in prison. He's 54 years old. That's a long way to go. People are living a lot longer. They live to 70, 80 years old. That's a long time to be in prison. And so we'll see what ends up happening. But I didn't know the backstory about Buster. And I guess he's not on trial yet. But we'll see what ends up happening in the near future. What's going to end up happening with these other crimes that he is still facing, the charges he has for stealing from people, stealing from clients, stealing from his law firm. But I mean, the defense counsel did what the best they could do with the information they were given. Like I said, he tried to pull out all the stops. He had these expensive experts. It just shows you that, trying to buy your way out of something doesn't always, win. And I doubt that on appeal is going to be overturned. I can't say for sure, but I doubt that. I think Judge Newman was very particular about what evidence he was allowing to be admitted and what was excluded so that it wouldn't be overturned on appeal. So we'll see what ends up happening because, like I said, appeal is a natural progression of what happens after somebody, especially somebody with this much of their liberty at stake on the line. So Sharon Lee says definitely suicide watch. Yeah, so thank you guys for joining in today. I just wanted to, because I've been posting something every day this week and I wanted to have it culminate to today. There's a lot going behind the scenes, but thank you for joining in. Sharon, Leeds, Legal Focus, Rajan, Lee, Marshall. Thanks for joining in today. And let us know what you want to see in future, any future reactions to particular cases. I know Judy and Debt Free Dad, so Legal Focus and Debt Free Dad did a video before about, check out their channel. They did a video before about Tim Norman from Sweetie Pies. He was convicted and he was recently also sentenced to life in prison. So, the mighty had fallen, and I think he still is declared he was innocent. He was found guilty of killing his nephew after taking out a life insurance policy on him. And so there's a lot of things going down, but check out Legal Focus channel and Debt Free Dad. They did a collaborative video on that. They're also attorneys that do reaction videos. So we're all in this together. We try to deliver you good information, accurate information that hopefully is free from most biases. So can't say I'm not biased as I am, but I try to give you the real deal of it. So thanks for tuning in today. Our will is wow, the whole family's rep is questionable. Yes, to say the least. So thank you guys for tuning in today. Happy Friday. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you next week in a new video.